call the Kitty Hawk Town Council to order this Monday, October 4th, 2021 at Kitty Hawk Town Hall. It's now 6 p.m. Welcome to all of you. Would you join us for a moment of silence in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do you hear a motion to approve the agenda? Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next is public comment. Lynn, do we have any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay. I did get an email from somebody saying they were planning to come, but it looked like the only comments were agenda items, and I did send them something saying that a comment period is whatever you want to comment on to. The only restrictions, we try to hold it in 3 minutes, and I'm saying this so that people that are listening outside this room will know you are free to call or to comment to this council. All right. Hearing no public comment, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as promulgated?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right. We didn't have anything removed, so next we go into public hearing. And the first one is a zoning amendment. Applicant proposes to rezone a portion of parcel BC1 to correct an existing split zoning. Do I hear a motion to go into public hearing for that item?
Motion to go into public hearing for item 7A, Mr. Mayor.
Does it have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. We are now in public hearing.
You see on the staff report, the property address is 3722 North Croton Highway. The proposal is to rezone a portion of the property from beach residential, Br1, to general beach commercial, BC1. Pull up. You can see on the PDF, and this was in your package as well, this line, this dotted line that runs across the back half of the parcel. The back portion of the lot is zoned BR1, the front part is BC1. The subject property was split zoned at the time of the establishment of the current zoning districts. The property lines did not match up with the zoning lines. The eastern half of the subject property is presently zoned BC1. The remaining half of the property is presently zoned BR1, low density beach residential. The subject property is 3.7 acres in size and presently houses a multi-unit commercial building. Currently, the property can only be accessed off of North Croton Highway as the BR1 portion of the parcel is landlocked. Having split zone parcels can complicate any future development or redevelopment proposals when determining setbacks, calculating lot coverage maximum, or even looking at the approved uses on the lot. The adjoining properties to the west are zoned low-density beach residential, BR1. They contain single-family residences in the First Flight Ridge subdivision. The two adjacent properties to the east across North Croton Highway are zoned BC1 and contain various commercial uses. The northern property contains Barefoot Bernie's, and the southern parcels contain Miss Lizzie's and Harbor Bay Shops, which are all zoned BC1. One thing that did come up in between the planning board and council review is you can see on the overhead this little portion that's listed as overlap area on the subdivision plat. According to Dare County GIS, it's actually a separate parcel, and they have the ownership as unknown owner in First Flight Ridge LLC. I will point out that the planning board's recommendation, the motion that they did for approval, listed 3722 North Croton Highway by address. So I think, Casey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think their motion only applies to that main parcel.
As opposed to the sliver?
Right.
Well, in looking at that prior to tonight, I saw the survey seeks to include that. So I think that has to be taken into consideration. I think the intent, quite honestly, of the motion was to have any and all of that area that the town is willing to consider for rezoning considered. So I think that if the applicant so chooses, I think it's still within his realm to ask for that sliver, if you will, the out parcel there to be rezoned as well.
Right, I think my question was, as it's listed as ownership with First Flight Ridge LLC, if the applicant has the authority to ask for that portion to be rezoned. But we can come back to that. Also, let's see, gone through the current zoning, proposed zoning. I've not been made aware of any proposed development or redevelopment of that subject parcel. All that's been listed to me was correcting the existing split zone parcel, which the town has made an effort to do on other properties in the past. I think it's evident that when the commercial zones were first laid out, way back when, it was just a kind of straight line shot through and didn't really take into account the jigs and jags of property lines. And so it's just been an effort of the town to try to correct those when we come across them. And that's really all I've got. The planning board, they unanimously recommended approval at their August meeting. The applicant's agent, engineer is here. If there's any questions of him, I don't know if you had anything you need to add.
Okay. Before I ask, is there anyone wanting to hear, do you have anything of Rob?
No, sir.
I do. Just one thing. Rob, this isn't the first time we've done this, correct? This has been done in this same, pretty much the same area.
Yes, I think one of the first month or two that I was working for Kitty Hawk, we were doing the same thing just to the north there at Barefoot Bernie's, if I recall correctly. And I think there were some lots up in front of, this was before me, but up in front of Walmart that I think there was split zone between BC1 and BC3, and the town went about correcting those as well.
And do we have very many more of these left?
I don't believe there's too many left. I can go through the zoning map and the parcel maps and kind of get a good idea, but I don't think there's a whole lot left like that.
Okay. I want clarity on the sliver. Everything we're looking at tonight is within the red lines. Is that correct?
So the property owner that applied for the rezoning owns this parcel, the 3722 North Croton Highway. The survey that came to me as part of the zoning map amendment request had this pink dash line indicating they were requesting that part to be rezoned to BC1 as well. Given the ownership information that it shows on Dare County, my question was with whether they can ask for that or not.
And I
But
think,
do they own it?
so perhaps, Mayor, I think maybe the applicant and the engineer and the attorney are here, perhaps having them.
Okay, I mean, if they don't own it, I don't know how we can do that. I
Right.
mean, we can rezone it, yes, but that's,
Sure.
they won't retain ownership, right?
And this is just me speaking now, because I did some background, because Rob did bring the issue up to me. And I'm looking, I've got here the First Flight Ridge subdivision, and those lots where they stop, and I've checked the deeded dimensions as well, using this same system here, where the First Flight Ridge lot stop is at the north end of that sliver right there. I think what's occurred, if I'm being honest here, as a real estate lawyer even, when deeds get recorded and you're carrying forward meets and bounds descriptions, sometimes new surveys are done. And when the tax office gets a meets and bounds description, we have a pretty good tax office, they actually go in and chart out what the newest deed says. So I think some form of missed call or something of that nature has likely led to this dispute, but I could not find anything in the public record so far as someone claiming ownership or something of that nature. I think that this could very well be a Dare County, a surveyor's error from a while back and combined with the Dare County Tax Office inputting what they see on a piece of paper.
All right, so the bottom line question is this. If we rezone or get rid of the split zone, and even with that, it's not going to affect ownership as far as we're concerned.
Correct. The ownership is
Okay.
what the owner, that's right.
That's all I
yes.
care about.
Yes,
All right.
that is correct.
All right. Anybody else? Did that bring up any other questions for anybody else? All right.
Just one. Okay, their property lines on the houses to the north, by no way of including that strip, are we going to make them split zone now? I mean, by adding that slip on there?
Correct.
We
It will
are?
not. That will
Will
not
not.
occur.
Okay.
Because again, in looking at the survey for the subdivision itself and measuring the lots that you're seeing right there, if Rob, if you'll click on one of those First Flight Ridge lots, please. That one's fine. Those boundaries right there match up with the subdivision plat. So that's what they would have the rightful claim to. Now, if there's some other dispute out there, that is what it is. But based on the subdivision plat, this matches up.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be affecting their lots, that's correct.
I will add in too on another topic, because I did get some phone calls from some neighbors in the First Light Ridge area about how it might impact them. Like I mentioned, I don't have anything that's been discussed with me for any redevelopment plans or anything, but in the event that that did come across my desk or the planning board and council, our ordinance does require wherever a commercial zone abuts a residential zone, there's a 50-foot setback that no structures will be within 50 feet of the residential zone. We have vegetative buffer requirements, so there will be, it won't be, if anything comes in, they won't be developing right up into their backyards. So I just wanted to mention that since I had gotten some phone calls.
I'm glad you did, because it's appropriate. All right. That said, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to come forward and express, please? Does the clerk have your name?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
It just happens that we are the owners of 105 First Flight Run. And for 2 weeks now, we've been in touch with the Dare County Tax Office inquiring specifically about that parcel of property. When we found that it was under owner conflict, then we wanted to make sure that we checked into our ability to obtain that property, to extend our lot. It's a 5,000 square foot area parcel, and for the last 10 years, nobody has paid taxes on it. So we inquired, and I suppose I spoke to this gentleman last week to figure out how a property owner could go about acquiring that property. Since they put this rezoning in with regard to the old Jordan property, it made it more imperative for us to want to obtain that property, because as we all know, 50 feet is nothing. You put 50 feet of vegetation, you could put a couple of trees and a big old parking lot right behind our property. And there's a few problems that can happen with that. Anybody who's been in an area where there's commercial property, there is additional traffic, there's wastewater issues. We currently have, every time it rains, a large pond of water that comes into our back parcel from Jordan's parking lot and from Barefoot Kearney's parking lot. And we've tried several different measures with regard to, we're working on putting a catch basin in to slow it down, because we know it can't stop it. So now you're going to add additional potential parking if that becomes commercial. And every morning, or every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 o'clock in the morning, dumpsters are being emptied all year round. So you've got an increase in noise, you have an increase in traffic, and you've got families that live in these neighborhoods. Now, I'm not opposed to having commercial businesses. That they are the bread and butter of Dare County. However, They've got that whole front section of Croton Highway. Why do they have to come back and build commercial property back there? And hearing him speak today about adding that additional sliver, which is not a sliver, it's 5,000 square feet. People build homes on 5,000 square feet. Taking that parcel and saying, well, we want to add that to our rezoning. He doesn't even own it. So my request is have this council review it carefully and have somebody answer my question in the Dare County Tax Office, how a owner of a property adjacent to one that's in conflict can become the owner. Thank you.
That leads me to a question before I call for any others. And that is, the sliver in question, if council decides to do away with the split zoning in the red section, the person that owns that, and leave the sliver alone, are we correct in doing that? And let the parties between the two of them, you know, hassle out whoever owns what there.
Yeah, is that an act? Yes, you can take that action if that's.
All right, 'cause I don't think we want to get in the middle of a,
I think we've got the
Was that not the recommendation of the planning board?
Well, they made their motion based on the address 3722. Unfortunately, I didn't catch that part until after the planning
Okay.
board had gotten to it, so I wanted to bring it to you all's attention.
Okay, all right,
you.
thank you.
all right. We have someone else.
Good evening. My name is David Ryan with Creative Engineering Solutions, and I'm representing the applicant for this proposal. It is not intended for the sliver, I guess in this case, to create a hardship for anybody. So the applicant would be amenable to going ahead and removing that as part of this request to go ahead and coincide with the boundaries of the property. We understand right now that that sliver is in conflict and that there is no judgment on this. So if it pleases you, we can go ahead and scale back and remove that from this request.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this issue? Does the clerk have your name? Now, please give her an address so she can do that.
She's got me on.
Oh, she has it?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Thank you.
I just wanted to put in some words of thought for myself. My husband and I have been owners of a home in First Flight Ridge for 14 years now. We live on Eagle Landing. When we purchased our home, we met with our attorney to find out what that parcel was directly behind our home, what it was zoned. It was zoned residential at the time that we purchased our lot. So we were fine with that because we knew that some homes could still be built there. Not in favor of it changing to commercial zoning for many of the reasons that my neighbor already addressed. And I think that it will impact the value of our community. First Flight Ridge is a gated community. We have certain guidelines for all of our homeowners as far as architectural guidelines, landscaping guidelines. The community is very well maintained, and I feel that even though Rob says that he hasn't received any request for commercial development, I feel confident in myself that the person applying for this application will be looking to sell the property or do some development themselves in a commercial way, or else they would not be applying for this rezoning. So to the point that there's a lot more noise coming there, trash pickup. We do have plenty of commercial properties now. I think we have a need for more residential properties, if that is the case. And I don't feel like our neighborhood was actually given very much time to prepare for this meeting because there were 2 letters that were sent out, one with the wrong address first, and then another one just a few days ago that said to come to this meeting tonight. So, you know, if we had more time, perhaps more of our neighbors could voice their opinion and direct to the city council what their wishes are too. But I know there's many homes right on Eagle Landing, including ours, that are definitely impacted by this proposal, and the ones coming in on First Flight Run also. So I would like for you to consider this carefully. Maybe let us do some more due diligence with our neighborhood to give you some more insight into what people really want.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Please come forward.
My name is Richie Howell. I'm a resident of First White Ridge. My property backs up to what we're talking about here. And I completely agree with Susan in that I don't think we were given enough time to properly address this problem and seek a proper remedy. And I'd like to ask for more time. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir?
Excuse me, my name is Chad Weeks, and I own a property right there in Eagle Landing as well. And I know, as someone mentioned here, that this has been done before, not the first time in this area, that something even directly in our area has been changed from Br1 to BC1. And I would just like to say in that particular scenario, it seemed to be handled a lot differently, that it was something that we had to consider. It was a part of our neighborhood, so yes, that's much different. But we were actually given plenty of time there. We voted on it. We talked to the owner about what it was all about. And it was something that we had an understanding that the owner of Barefoot Bernie's was going to do a septic issue or expand his parking lot and do septic. And out of our voting and the grace of allowing that, we did to benefit our community. By a lot of us enjoy Barefoot Bernie's, some of us quite often. And so, I feel like that was something handled differently. And we did show some compassion for his situation, allowing him to keep his business going and expanding. And that the use would just be for something flat, even at turning residential into a septic field, and we were fine with it. So, for certain uses, we can understand it, but we also bought property there as it is now. And so backing up to trees and knowing that's a BR1 when you buy your lot, as Susan mentioned, and Richie and Alice and everybody, a lot of us in here, that's a different situation than buying a lot that is up to a commercial property that's zoned that way. So, I don't see how the compensation, I don't know how you get compensated for that, but just that other situation was different, and we gave that consideration, and we were willing to work together. But I just thought this is moved really quick. It's just a letter that, 10 days ago, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, council, before I call for us going back, because once I call back, we have to make one decision or table or whatever we're going to do. Is there anything else you want to hear or ask council or the planner?
Let me just ask a question. What is the setback in the BR1, just out of curiosity, versus the BC1? Is it more, is it the same?
So the BR1 setbacks are 25 feet in the front and rear, and 10 feet on the sides is the minimum. I mentioned we've got that 50-foot buffer area for setback from residential to commercial zone, which back in here would get you right about there.
Okay.
So it's from, I guess, from structure to structure. If you push it all the way up to the setbacks, you have a minimum of 75 feet. So 25 feet on the residential lot and 50 feet on the commercial lot, and then.
Okay.
But it's basically a landlocked area as it is residential-wise.
Correct.
There's no
And
access, there's no access to it.
Right.
Well, except through a commercial lot.
Yeah.
All right. All right, anybody else?
One other thing I will add, it wouldn't be something that the town would review or permit, but if there were, the commercial redevelopment plan, it would be assumed that they would probably be looking to do something in the back, and if their disturbed area or impervious area reach a certain threshold, I think it's 1 acre, they'd be required to get a state stormwater permit. So, given when this building and lot was developed, they probably didn't have as stringent stormwater regulations as there are in place today. So
Right.
a lot of the stormwater issues that exist from that lot would probably be resolved. I know that's only one of the concerns, but that would be something that the state would be reviewing as well.
Right. Okay, very good,
And
thank you.
just so we're sure on everybody's discussed, the outlying parcel has been taken out of play, correct? So if we approve or deny tonight, it's not going to affect that one bit, correct?
The sliver.
If we,
Correct.
The
wait a
sliver.
minute.
The outlying sliver.
Well, okay, that's too soon. We got to get back into session here.
Okay.
I'm asking Rob and the attorney during this session here.
Yes, yeah, the applicant mentioned they can withdraw that, and it sounds like if there's any question as to the ability to rezone it, it wouldn't be an issue to take that out and just look at the part that's outlined on the map now.
Correct.
And we would we'd revise whatever is necessary in the motion to
I understand what
approve.
they're saying about being too close, I understand.
All right. So while we're doing our thing, why don't you do a quick something on that? All right. I motion to go back into regular session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Okay. We've had some good comments here tonight, some concerned people that I really didn't expect, but that's all right. That's what it's all about, and I'm glad you came out and spoke to us. There's a couple things we can do. We can make a decision tonight. Sometimes there are things that you need to think about a little bit, so we could table it until the next meeting and then make a decision there. So I'll leave it up to you. Which way do you want to go?
Mr. Mayor, I think that considering the amount of I think feedback that we've gotten tonight, that I don't think a lot of us were expecting, since we were cleaning up these parcels previously, we haven't ran into this. So I personally, if we were to defer it, then that way that they would have a chance to talk to their neighbors and bring it back to us, and that's fine with me. I mean, if that's what the rest of the board, but.
We're not proposing another hearing per se, but they could send us information.
Correct. Matters could be
By
accepted.
many ways of communication, so.
I mean, they could email us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're not going to come back. When we come back, we're going to make a decision
Yes, correct,
if we table it.
correct.
It will only be discussion amongst the board.
That's
for
correct.
For a
I
decision.
just want to make sure everybody understood that, because some of the folks seemed like they wanted to get out and have other people talk. Anyway, all right, that's your thoughts? David, give me your thoughts.
I don't really have any right this minute.
I'm sorry?
I don't have any right this minute. I mean, we're trying to clean
You're
things up.
thoughtless?
I mean, no, I'm not thoughtless, but, I mean, you got to listen to what everybody has to say. But we've been working on cleaning this up before tonight.
Okay.
So, I mean,
You okay with tabling it for a month?
I am, so they can have more time to,
All right. Lynn?
I have no problem tabling it, but I would definitely like to make everyone aware the status of the sliver. If it's out of consideration, we need to say that, and if it's still going to be considered, we need to say that.
All right.
But I'd like to see the sliver.
The sliver goes away.
Goes
We
away.
all agree on that. How about you?
I agree with the table, but we need to keep in mind, Rob has told us before, we've got many just like this that we need to clean up, and we need to keep that in mind.
Okay? All right. So in that case, I'm going to make a motion that we table this for further consideration until the November meeting. And having done that, I also want, Rob, can you send notices to everybody you can think of in that area, or have you already done that?
So, by state statute, we send notices to any adjacent property owners, so anybody that is
Right.
running that parcel. I guess if we wanted to expand that out.
But probably not necessary. I think these
Yeah.
folks are going to take care of it for us. So just make sure everybody understands it won't be another hearing, but we'll listen to whatever comes to us in any form that it comes to us, short of standing like you did tonight. That's just the way it works, okay? All right. I made a motion. Does it have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. The matter is tabled until November. Thank you for coming, folks. All right, what was the next one? Next, we have a public hearing on a zoning text amendment, and we're amending some definitions regarding tattoo studios and where they can be used.
Mayor,
Yes,
wait just a second so we get them in here. Thank you.
oh, we got a different route coming?
Yes, we have a different group.
The tattoo, yeah.
Thank you.
Revolving chairs. Cakewalk.
That's it?
No, they're coming in.
Oh, okay. Well, all I'm going to do is go into,
And one more thing, Mayor. This will be sworn testimony because it's a special conditional use.
okay.
For anybody other than Rob. Is that? This is testimony. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I gotta have myself.
All right, so I'm going to motion that we go into hearing on the zoning text amendment for tattoo studios. Does it have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. We're now in public hearing.
So the applicant proposed a text amendment that would allow, as a special use with specific conditions, a tattoo studio in the BC1, BC2, BC2, and BC3 districts. In addition to the proposal of allowing the proposed use as a special use, a definition has been proposed to be added to 42-1. The applicant's request, as originally proposed, is listed in the staff report, but I will note that the planning board recommendation of approval omitted the special use from the BC1 district, and it changed the hours of operation from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The applicant was agreeable to these modifications. So the proposed definition is a tattoo studio means an establishment in which the activity of tattooing occurs. Tattooing means the inserting of permanent markings or coloration or the production of scars upon or under human skin through puncturing or use of the needle, or puncturing by use of the needle or other method. As I mentioned, the zoning districts being proposed, BC1, BC2, BC2, and BC3. The specific requirements proposed by the applicant tattoo studios subject to the following conditions. They shall meet the separation requirements listed below for minimum distance in a straight line from the property line. For a church, school, public park, or libraries, separation of 200 feet. And for other tattoo studios, separation of 400 feet. The health department and any other applicable local and state agency approval is required. Again, the applicants proposed an hours of operation from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Planning board recommended 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And D, the planning board may recommend to the town council, and town council may impose any additional conditions that they determine are appropriate based on the surroundings. Currently, Kitty Hawk does not allow tattoo studios as a permitted or special use in any of its zoning districts. The applicant has included the 4 separate zoning districts. However, you're not as the planning board made in their motion, not obligated to approve or deny in an all or none manner. So the BC1 district, it's established to provide for the proper grouping and development of commercial facilities in Kitty Hawk Beach. BC1 district has been established to provide for the commercial needs of the neighborhood and immediate surrounding geographical area. The commercial developments are meant to be characterized by small to medium-sized land parcels with commercial development of low intensity. Uses permitted in BC1 include office, retail, and service establishments. And there's a wide variety of special uses permitted in that district. The BC2 district was established to provide for the development of commercial facilities in Kitty Hawk Beach to furnish a broad range of services and commodities to serve the entire community. It's been established to provide for the commercial needs of the town and immediate surrounding geographical area. Commercial development of this district is meant to be characterized by medium to large sized land parcels with commercial development of medium intensity. Permitted uses include all those uses permitted in BC1 with the addition of home center sales, cabinet and woodworking shops, and marinas. BC2 district, village commercial, is established to provide for the development of commercial facilities in Kitty Hawk Village and furnish a broad range of services and commodities to serve the entire community. Permitted uses include offices, retail, service establishments, cabinet and woodworking shops, hardware sales and rental, medical equipment sales and rental of household furnishings and equipment. And the last one applied for, the BC3 district, is established to provide for the development of commercial and light industrial facilities and uses in Kitty Hawk Village to better furnish a broad range of services and commodities to serve the entire community, including but not limited to commercial laundry, building supply facilities, construction equipment, storage and servicing, manufacturing and production and marketing of concrete and concrete products. When preparing for the planning board for this text amendment request, I looked at some information provided by the School of Government, some opinions given on that. NCGS 160A-174 lists situations in which an ordinance would be inconsistent with North Carolina or federal law and is preempted. 160A-174B2 states that an ordinance is inconsistent with state law if the ordinance, quote, makes unlawful an act, omission, or condition which is expressly made lawful by state or federal law. That guidance from the School of Government gives the opinion that North Carolina state law makes tattooing lawful in our state. And Kitty Hawk does not expressly prohibit tattoo studios currently, but does not have a zoning district where they're permitted either by right or special use. I reached out to Adam Lovelady, the Associate Professor of Public Law and Government at the School of Government. He referenced that post in Coates Canyons is still a good guidance on the subject, and I've attached that for council's benefit. Currently, in some of the other communities, Duck and Southern Shores do not have them permitted. I don't believe Kill Devil Hills does. Nags Head allows them as a conditional special use in the C3 district. And I'll just note in the staff report, I've got it listed as conditional / special use, just because we recently did the 160D updates, changing conditional uses to special uses. So it's one and the same, but it's still a fresh change, so we might still be thinking conditional uses. Manio, it's a special use in the B2 General Business District with no specific conditions. Dare County, a special use in the BC2 Village Commercial with no specific conditions attached. There are 3 tattoo studios in Dare County that I'm aware of, one located in Mans Harbor, one on Hatteras Island, and the other in unincorporated Dare County on Collington Road. According to Dare County Planning Department, as well as Dare County Health and Human Services, neither have generated any kind of complaints or had any kind of nuisance issues associated with them. I did, after printing this, but before the meeting, reached out to Dare County Sheriff's Office too, to just inquire if they've had any issues, and they said they've not had any kind of criminal complaints or anything like that from them either. So as I mentioned at the August 12th, 2021 meeting, the Planning Board unanimously recommended approval of the proposed text amendments with those 2 changes noted, omitting it from BC1 and changing the hours of operation from 8 a.m. To 8 p.m. Really all I've got. The applicants are here. I guess if there's any questions of them, and if you got any questions for me, I'll do my best.
Okay, Counselor, you got anything for Rob before I call up? All right. Anybody signed up to speak?
I have people signed up, but nobody's ready to speak unless you need them, I think.
Unless I need them.
Please raise your hand.
Okay, well, for the record, I do have something from, I received an email today, as a matter of fact, from Jim and Sarah Twitty. Jim apparently is one of the people that would work at the tattoo parlor, therefore, in summation of what he's written, they want this to be approved. That's the bottom line, all right? And unless there's somebody outside, if nobody here is willing to come up. All right, come up, please.
First, I'll thank y'all for hearing everybody out. I appreciate it.
And please, come over here, please. Mhm.
My name's William Nash, and I want to thank y'all once again for allowing everybody to speak, say their piece. You know, tattoos have always had a stigma behind them, which is rapidly changing. And that's one of the big things I want to point out. You know, the old stigmas are going away. You know, your police officers, your firefighters, your EMS, even school teachers, they're all getting tattoos now. That's who you see in your shops. You know, whether it's police officers getting a tattoo in remembrance of someone that was fallen in duty beside them, you know, your armed forces, you know, displaying Semper Fi, you know, pride for what they believe in. You know, that's the people who are getting it now. It's the people who are looking out for your community, and it's also the people that's looking out for your children. But anyway, that's my piece, and thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. So drunken sailors don't have a monopoly anymore.
No, sir.
All right.
I meant to put this up on the screen as I started. Highlighted are the zoning districts that were applied for. As I mentioned over and over again, the planning board omitted BC1, so if you follow the planning board recommendation, you ignore the yellow part in there.
Yes. All right, any more questions of council? All right, I motion to go back into regular session. Does it have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. We're now in regular session. Council, what do you want to do with this?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the proposed text amendments defining tattoo studios and adding the proposed special use and associated conditions as recommended by the planning board to BC2, VC2, and VC3 districts. Town council has found this proposal to be consistent with the town's adopted land use plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right.
4-1. Was that 4 ayes? Was that 4 yeses? Okay.
Oh, aye.
I don't,
Everybody said aye. I said aye.
Okay,
He
just
didn't
making
say it,
sure.
yeah.
Just making sure.
sometimes I don't say it, but if I don't say it, then it's a given.
That's right.
That's the way the law used to work anyway. All right, next we have a zoning text amendment. It's a staff-initiated proposal to define and limit the number of accessory living structures. I motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Go ahead.
All right. This amendment would be to section 42-1 definition. As you can see in the staff report, staff had originally proposed 2 new definitions, one for an accessory living structure and the other for accessory dwelling units. The difference between the 2 structures being whether or not the independent cooking facilities exist in the structure. Planning board recommendation eliminated the proposed definition of accessory living structure and added verbiage that would define all accessory structures with finished or conditioned living space as an accessory dwelling unit. The text amendment as recommended by the planning board is to add a new definition for accessory dwelling unit, being a secondary dwelling unit established in conjunction with and clearly subordinate to a principal dwelling unit, whether part of the same structure as the principal dwelling unit or as a detached structure on the same lot, with or without independent cooking facilities. In 2018, when the town adopted the standards and specifications for the ADUs, the amendment did not include a definition of the accessory dwelling unit. So that's why I was bringing one forward to this proposal to try to clarify between the two. In addition, staff had proposed a separate definition for other accessory living structures, being those with finished or conditioned living space but no independent cooking facilities. During the planning board discussion, the board felt that having the two separate definitions and different sets of requirements for the two types of structures, with the only difference being whether or not cooking facilities were present, would be confusing for the general public, and they opted to recommend all accessory structures with living space be considered accessory dwelling units and be bound by the regulations listed in 42-528, which I've attached to your staff report. So as I mentioned above, a minute ago in 2018, Kitty Hawk Town Council adopted a text amendment that allows the development of one accessory dwelling unit per residential lot with a number of specific site requirements that the accessory dwelling unit must meet. Dwelling unit is defined as one room or rooms connected together, constituting a separate independent housekeeping unit for owner occupancy or rental or lease, and physically separated from any other rooms or dwelling units which may be in the same structure and containing independent cooking and sleeping facilities for a single family. It's long been interpreted since before I got here that the independent cooking facilities were to mean whether a stove or stove connection was present. The proposed definition, as recommended by the planning board, will eliminate the need for the independent cooking facilities to be present for an accessory structure to be considered an accessory dwelling unit. Let's see, the requirement for having cooking facilities to be considered a dwelling unit leaves open the possibility of creating an accessory structure with conditioned living space that is not bound by the requirements for an ADU. Specifically, as it relates to this proposal, these accessory structures with living space are not currently restricted by number on a lot. The Kitty Hawk has no limit on how many accessory structures a property owner can have on a lot, as long as the total lot coverage does not exceed 30% and all setback requirements are met. So when we did our accessory dwelling unit language, I kind of created a loophole where there's potential to have one lot with multiple structures that are all developed for habitation, but no stove or stove connections, so they're not considered dwelling units, and thus not bound by the ADU requirements. Just to be clear, the proposed amendment would not limit the number of accessory structures on any given lot, only those with conditioned or finished living space in them. The reason for this proposed text amendment is that in recent months, the planning department has had multiple calls and inquiries about the potential of developing a single-family dwelling with multiple separate accessory structures, each containing living space but not meeting the definition of a dwelling unit. The first 2 or 3 that came to me, where the proposal was for a 800 square foot house and 4 250 square foot structures with a bedroom and a bathroom. I would assume to be used as Airbnbs or short-term rentals or what have you. When that one came in, I got together with the town attorney and reviewing the land use plan and the scope and intent of various zoning districts. He developed an opinion on the matter, ruling that it's not permissible, did not fall within the intent of our zoning ordinance. But we agreed that it would be best to codify this to avoid any future confusion. As noted, the recommended text amendment would require all accessory structures that contain finished living space to adhere to the requirements of 42-528. The regulations that would impact these structures the most with regards to the site planning would be the size limit of 800 square feet or 50% of the primary residence, whichever is less. The structure would be required to be located in the rear or side yard, not to project beyond the front of the primary residence. 1 additional parking space would be required, no separate driveway, and no more than one accessory dwelling unit on any lot. The maximum height of an ADU is 28 feet from grade, or the height of the primary residence, whichever is lower. Just for council's reference, the staff proposed definition of an accessory living structure, which was omitted from the planning board recommendation, would have applied to accessory structures with finished or conditioned living space that did not meet the definition of an ADU, meaning didn't have the cooking facilities. It would still be limited to one per parcel, limited to 800 square feet, and would not be permitted on the same lot as an accessory dwelling unit. Essentially limiting the living structures to two on any given lot. The other requirements of 42-528 were not included in the original proposed definition. And the original proposed definition for the accessory dwelling unit was identical to what is shown in this staff report. However, it omitted the words "or without" relating to independent cooking facilities. At the September 16th planning board meeting, they unanimously recommended approval of the revised text amendment as presented in this staff report. That's what I've got. If you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Trying to.
Yeah. This is a case where words matter. And what happened here was, I don't think any of the council realized we were doing accessory living structures. And then Rob came to him and he says, I've got this request to do an accessory, about 4 or 5 of them on a lot, and from there it just mushroomed. And I said, no, that's not Kitty Hawk. That is just not what Kitty Hawk has been from the day Kitty Hawk was envisioned in 1981. In fact, just the opposite. They wanted to close the gate and let nobody else in. So I told Rob, I said, you get up with this lawyer and you get all of this rounded up so that we can stop this. Otherwise, we're going to be the VRBO capital of Dare County. And then when they did their research, they come up and said, yeah, that's not what Kitty Hawk was set up to be. So then I told Rob, I said, I don't want people not to have accessory structures. Again, this is where words matter. I'm talking about a barn, I'm talking about a garage, a workshop, the things that we normally think of. Rob was keyed in on accessory living structures, so he thought I meant, well, I don't want to kill all accessory living structures. You see how words matter? I mean, that kind of went out of kilter. We're still accomplishing what we want, but words do matter. And I didn't say the right word or didn't phrase it right, but he got it right, and you got it right. So this is where we are, what we're looking at. And all of this came up. We didn't even know this was happening until we did the alternative dwelling units, because that was to try to add living space for people in Dare County. Everybody knows how that's been a real problem. And we tried to do that, but have some measure of where it's put and how it's put and what's put there. With that said, council, do you have anything for Rob before I call for anyone?
Just for the clarification, Rob, I know personally I do building sometimes in the wintertime, and some of them have been right here in Kitty Hawk. And I've been a part of accessory dwellings that were in front of a house. And at that time, you know, the stoves and everything was just left out, but it was completely finished off as a normal home would be. And after the occupancy permit, then they put in whatever they want. Okay, so what we're doing now is going to clear up the ability to do that, correct? In front of your house. They start out and they call it the accessory building, and then the second, because they don't have room either beside them or behind them, but they got a bunch of land out front. So they say they're putting an accessory building out front, and the second everybody's gone, they put the stove in there, and you've got a nice 800 square foot home.
Right. I mean, Fortunately, we can't control what people do after the final inspections, after that CO is given.
But they do lose the incentive.
Correct.
And that's, I think, kind of what you're getting at.
So
If a neighbor,
now-
if a neighbor was to come to the town of Kitty Hawk and say, hey, they've got an Airbnb in that supposedly accessory building out in front of their house, right in front of my house, is there something the town's gonna be able to do to
If-
correct that?
So if it was permitted as just accessory living space with no kitchen or anything so it wouldn't have to abide by that 42-528. And then after they got their CO, they went in and put the stove in. If we got a complaint, we issue a zoning violation letter, and they'd have X amount of days to bring it back into compliance or start getting civil fines.
Okay.
But currently, the accessory structures with living space aren't bound to the 42-528. So you can build one in your, we've got a number of detached garages in their front yard with living space above it. The way the planning board recommended it would prohibit that in the future, as well as create a fair amount of non-conforming structures.
So from this day forward, we'll be fine. I know this has been a headache for
Yeah.
you and for us too, for a long time.
Yeah, it would, it would make it cleaner, just considering them all the same, take away what happens after they get their CO, if it's all bound by the same language. And again, it only applies to if you've got living space in this accessory structure. Like the mayor pointed out, we're not talking about limiting sheds or barns or anything like that. So it's essentially just putting in place that you can have a house and one other structure with living space in it on any given lot, but you're not going to be able to develop 4 or 5 different, a little compound on your lot.
And this would be called by like a building inspector maybe, like during the process of building an accessory building? Would he not be able to tell that they're building bedrooms and putting bathrooms and? Or are they allowed in accessory?
Yeah, currently, the accessory structures, the only thing that kicks in those accessory dwelling unit requirements is that cooking facility. So if somebody comes with a plan for, say they've got a 2,000 square foot single family house, and they come with a plan for a 1,000 square foot structure with 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a living room, but no kitchen facilities. We don't have anything that would limit where that would go on the lot, as long as they meet setbacks and lot coverage requirements, because it's not considered a dwelling without the kitchen, the cooking facilities. So doing this would catch those, and it wouldn't matter if they had a kitchen or not, you'd be bound by this.
By the living spaces, right? The bathroom?
Right. They could, kitchen or not, they'd be bound by this, and they,
Okay.
like Casey said, they wouldn't have the incentive to permit
Right.
it as one thing and then go in later and put the stove in after we're all done with our inspections and everything.
Right.
Because they'd have to meet the same requirements anyways.
So they're allowed to have one structure in addition to their house in most places, most zoning, that just has little livable space in it, and we don't care if they put a stove, 2 stoves, or, whatever, as long as they get it permitted. But they're only allowed that one living structure, whether it has a stove or not.
Extra, 80.
An extra, yeah.
Yeah.
So that person would still be able to have the.
But with the new proposal, that the way I read it, is the ones that are like out in front of the house that have been accessory dwellings and then built completely as an Airbnb and then a hot plate put in, even as it's being built, because it's allowed there. But it's in front of the building, and our new code says, and it's way up in the air, and it's higher than the dwelling behind it, and it's got to be lower than the dwelling that you live in, that it's being put on the property, correct?
28 feet.
Right.
So,
So if that's been permitted, then it would be.
It's just a legal
It
non-conforming.
would be legal non-conforming,
So
basically.
we wouldn't tell anybody they have to take
Tear
it
it
down or
down.
anything. If it got, destroyed by a fire or anything like that, then I believe it would have to be built in accordance with this if they're rebuilt. But yeah, we wouldn't, anybody that has one in their front yard now, we wouldn't start sending them.
I understand, but that's going to this is going to stop that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to hear.
I just want to understand clearly, so by what we're doing though, yeah, I'm getting a little confused by the, with the stove, without a stove. I mean, you're still allowing people to have one unit with a stove or without, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Now, wait a minute.
Yeah, it kind of takes out the,
Yeah.
right now, it's everything that is in that 42-528 hinges on if there's a stove in the plans for it.
Right.
This definition that the planning board recommended would take that out, and any accessory structure with living space falls under this 42-528, stove or no stove.
You can have a garage, you can have an ADU. You can't live in the garage, you can only have an ADU. That's it. What's happened before, have to deal with from a different perspective. They put a stove in it, and they're no longer conforming. But that's the only option you have for what came before. After we do this, assuming we pass this tonight, then ADU, house, then you can have your garage or whatever, but you can't live in it. And when they're going to build that, I'm assuming we have building plans. So that is where your building inspector comes in.
Right. That's
All
what I
right.
was trying to get at.
Now-
Thank you very much, Rob, for clearing this up.
What defines living space? Are we talking about climate control, plumbing? What defines living space?
Well, we're trying to give people the right to have a mother-in-law suite or whatever. It's not
Yeah.
really designed for VRBO, but that, I know it turns into that, but there's things that you can control and some that you probably can't. Some people live on the street, some people live in open barns. I mean, I don't know what you want to, I don't know where you want to go with
Well, I'm
that.
just trying, I'm looking at a property, they have a 2,000 square foot house.
Okay,
They end up putting a accessory dwelling unit because mother-in-law or college student son, they don't want him in the house anymore, they're tired of his music or whatever. Give him some privacy, so they have an accessory dwelling unit. Now they put a pool in, and they have a pool house. And in that pool house, they put climate control, because, you know, you want to take a break, you want to get out of the sun, you want it cool, be able to cool it off. They put a bathroom because it makes it a whole lot easier not to have to track drippy through the house to get to a bathroom. So now you have a pool house that's air conditioned and has a bathroom. Couple gets into an argument. The guy goes out and sleeps in his pool house. Are we going to have problems? I mean, is somebody going to say, no, you can't go sleep in your pool house because it's not a living, and Casey's shaking his head. I'm just looking for all these
no.
things that people are going to take exception to. And what if somebody down the road says, hey, Cousin Joe, you can live in my pool house for the summer, just pay me $60 a month. And now we do have someone living in the pool house. I don't know why we're,
Well, how
I don't
complex
know
do you
how,
want to
but I'm
make
saying
this?
that
you can take this.
it can be,
All right,
no,
okay, you got anything else?
no, I'm just,
All right. That's
I hate
enough.
defining things like this.
It's time now to see if anybody out here wants to speak. Is anybody signed up?
I don't believe so, Mayor.
Is there anyone out there that does want to speak? We don't have anybody outside, right, Joel? Okay. All right, let the record show no one apparently came forward. I think we've discussed this enough. Anybody got anything else for Joel, or Rob? All right, our motion, we go back into regular session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're back in regular session. What do you want to do?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the proposed text amendment to section 42-1 defining accessory dwelling units. Town council has found this proposal to be consistent with the town adopted land use plan.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you, and thank you, Rob and Casey.
Thank you, Rob.
Yep. All right. Where are we at? Planning, non-conforming pier replacement. I believe you're back up. You're getting worked out today,
Last
huh?
you're gonna hear from me tonight, I hope. All right, so this is for a non-conforming pier at 3800 Elijah Baum. Section 42-360 in Sound Waters District states non-conformities exception. Piers exceeding 100 feet waterward of the mean high water mark of Kitty Hawk Bay or the sounds on the effective date of this ordinance from which this division is derived can be maintained, repaired, and replaced as needed, notwithstanding any provision of this chapter to the contrary. The pier length, width, and height cannot be increased without prior town council and planning board approval. A non-conforming pier authorized under this subsection shall install and maintain lights or reflectors in accordance with subsection C to E of this section. So the town council is being asked to review and make a motion on the replacement pier as it's currently 130.5 feet in length, which exceeds the currently permitted 100-foot length. The ordinance states that the pier can be replaced as needed. However, any changes in length, width, and/or height must be approved by planning board and town council. As noted in the attached proposal, as a part of this replacement, the owners would like to add a boat lift and kayak launch to the platform at the end of the pier, which would not be possible at the 100-foot length as the water is too shallow. The replacement pier is also proposed to be shifted to the west on the property, as it will also allow the boat lift to be placed on slightly deeper water. Staff's interpretation that the pier being shifted to the new location is permissible as the nonconformity is the pier length, not the location. As the proposal is remaining at 130 feet in length, the portion that the town council must review is the enlarged and reconfigured platform at the end of the pier and an increase in pier width from 4 feet to 5 feet. It should be noted that council's decision will not supersede any required approvals or permitting from CAMA. Council is being asked to review and make a decision on the zoning aspect of the pier replacement. If council approves of the request, the applicant would still be required to comply with all CAMA regulations and get it permitted through the Elizabeth City office. At the September 16th meeting, the planning board unanimously recommended approval of the proposed replacement of the non-conforming pier, allowing the replacement to increase in width from 4 feet to 5 feet and allow the enlargement and reconfiguration of the platform at the end of the pier. That's all I've got on this one. The applicant put together a pretty detailed packet explaining, showing what they're wishing to do.
All right. Council, got any questions, Rob?
No.
Okay, the only question I have is, the applicants are listed as LLC, and I think there's 3 owners.
I believe so, yeah.
And I was looking at the proposal for the new pier, and the question came to mind, is this possibly going to be a business?
I don't believe so.
The kayaking, the way they set this thing up, they're widening the pier,
Right.
makes you wonder.
What zone is that, Rob?
What's
Right
that?
off the top of your head, do you know what zone that is? Is that a VR1?
VR1, yeah.
All right,
That
well, I
would-
think they're gonna have trouble with camo anyway, going more than 3 feet, but that's their problem, not mine. All right, council, what do you wanna do?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the proposed plan to replace existing non-conforming pier with an enlarged pier and platform as per the attached plans not to exceed 130.5 feet in length.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Okay, next we have a schedule a public hearing. We're here, and we don't have to do anything other than schedule it. That's right. Do you hear a motion on that?
I'll get it here. Anybody want to do it?
All right.
Okay. I move to set the public hearing of the town, at the town council meeting on December the 6th, 2021, to consider the proposed text amendments to Chapter 42 to amend the current trailer park regulations and add the proposed recreational vehicle park as a special use in the VR3 high-density village residential district.
Does that have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. New business. Odd duck, we have to make nominations for the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau. And we don't have the election over yet. So,
That's what I was asking. Is there any way to postpone this until the December meeting, until after the election?
did I lose a lawyer?
Well,
I'm sure
I
we're not
think
the
we
only
could,
town.
but I mean, we could put 3 people that are presently going to be, I mean, you know, unopposed, you know, and 2 other council people, if there's somebody that we're going to nominate that's actually sitting here right now to fill the position.
Could we nominate the unknown council person?
Do what now?
No, you can't do that.
Can we nominate the unknown council person?
No.
No, you gotta have a name.
No, we got to have a name. So I'm going to nominate David Hines.
Oh, come on.
I'm going to nominate Lynn McLean. And I'm going to nominate Craig Garris. He's running unopposed, unless something strange happens. Do they have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
All
I
right.
bet you will.
I've had my 4
All in
years.
favor?
Aye.
All right. Now we have to give them a number 1, 2, and 3. So
3.
I'm going to nominate David as 1, Lynn as 2, and Craig Garris as 3. Does that have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. There you go. Lynn, you get all that?
Yes.
Do I get a ribbon?
Okay, consideration of additional sand placement in the hotspot areas. Do you want to do something on that, or you want me to do
It's
it?
just a brief.
Okay.
You can do it, yeah.
No.
You have the email? I'll just give you the rundown. It's something we were more than likely going to consider anyways. We wanted to bring it to the town council's attention and kind of just do a quick recap. There was no reason for the engineer to be here this evening. I just wanted to give everybody an update that the town has received bids back for the beach nourishment project. It's coming up in 2022, next summer. The original estimate for the project was estimated at around $10,416,000. On September 2nd, the county, who is responsible for the bid process and bidding, we're going to, as you'll see tonight, you're going to enter into an interlocal, or you have entered into an interlocal with the county as the lead for the beach nourishment projects, with all the other towns participating. The bids came in. We got 3 bids from 3 dredging contractors. The low bid for the project was Weeks Marine, and it was in the amount for the town of Kitty Hawk of $8,214,000. So it was a little over $2 million savings. The county has decided to pass some of those savings along to the town at the same proportion that we contribute and they contribute to the project. So both the occupancy tax fund from the county will be receiving credit for the savings, and then they're going to give some for the town as well to put towards the project to enhance our current project in 2022 or do what we want with the monies. So this evening, the engineers recommended that the town add some additional sand in several of the hotspot areas that we've seen since the project was completed 5 years ago, and some areas that we've noticed that just some additional sand loss that's greater than we've seen in some of the other areas. The areas that he's recommending adding some additional sand to, so basically the town originally thought it would be about $5 million from the town's portion, the MSD that we collect, the taxes for the project. However, with the bids coming in lower, we ended up, our costs were going to be about $3.9 million. So the engineer's recommending using as much as we can, as that we have available, since we do this project once every 5 years, and the MSD is specifically goes towards beach nourishment. And as you know, to get a contractor in town to do these types of projects, the mobilization is upwards of $5 to $6 million. And so that's why working together with the other communities does make it a little cheaper to do these types of projects, just due to the mobilization alone. So since they're here, we have to spend that money towards beach nourishment. They were looking to add approximately, let's see here, they were looking to add approximately 107 additional cubic yards of sand, which equates to about $1.4 million of additional sand, and they were looking to place that additional sand at the northern end of the project. As you can see from the overhead here, that would be from station 20 plus 03, located approximately 200 feet of Funk Street, to station 6050. So in between 203 there, let's see if I can, from this here to 6050. So this stretch of area, they were looking to add some additional sand. And then also the area in front of the Sea Dunes development, which was station let's see.
Well, it's in front of the Sea Dunes.
In front of the Sea Dunes development, so yeah, we're about the Black
It's
Pelican.
an obvious spot.
Exactly, where the roads washed in before we started the project, and it's the erosion starting to creep closer to the road, so we're looking to add some additional sand in those areas. And really, as tonight, just wanted to bring to your attention that the project is moving forward. We're still waiting on a permit that we're expected to get here in the next couple weeks, and that will dictate the local government commission's approval for the financing of the project. But outside of that, everything's moving along smoothly. The staff and the engineer would recommend going ahead and placing that additional sand while we have the contractor in town, and it's within the budget that we've set aside for our beach nourishment fund. So with that, I'll leave it with any questions, or Mayor, if you'd like to add on to that.
Excuse me. There were two questions I asked the engineer, and council knows this, but I'm saying this in front of the camera, I guess. When you add sand out a little bit, it makes a bump. And in the past, the engineer has said, well, that tends to wash away a little sooner than it would otherwise. So the question was, is it beneficial to spend the money to do that? And they thought it was. And in fact, it kind of has been, because the initial construction, the berm line was pretty static, and they had some extra sand because we had some storms that brought some sand in some places, in fact buried some of their equipment. So they wound up with extra sand within the contract. And they come to us and said, do you want the money back, or do you want to put the sand in front of what's now the bathhouse and the Sea Dunes? So we said, no, we don't want the money back. We want you to put the sand out there. Now, if you go look at front of the bathhouse and the Sea Dunes, it's probably a good thing we did, because that sand's pretty much gone. But we still have a double dune system, so if we can get through this winter and get some more sand out there, and then get that little extra in those spots that have anomalies, as they call them, then it'll be worth it. So yes, we should do this. The only last question I have for you, I want to make sure the public understands that, yeah, the county normally, if there was a savings, they would keep that and add it to the pile, the go pot. But in this case, they're going to share it, give it back. So that means that, first off, we didn't have to raise the MSD tax because we came in under the bid, on the low bid. And what we're doing here will not add anything to the current MSD or cost our citizens any extra than what they're paying right now. Is that a correct statement?
Correct. The town is, for the next is going to finance the project for 5 years, and the money that we are collecting for those 5 years would be spent for this next upcoming project, and it will be no more than what we collect for the 5 years.
And we've been very lucky.
So this year, we do have, for the last 5 years, we do have a little bit of reserves built up. 5 years from now, I guess the goal, if we place additional sand there too, is hopefully maybe in our next 5 years, we won't see a big erosion rate as much, and we won't have to put as much sand either. So there may be a cost savings of doing this in the future, who knows, it's Mother Nature, but no, there will be no additional funds outside of what's collected from the MSD to fund this project.
All right. Council, anybody? I'm fine. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I do too.
All right, then I'm going to motion to approve the additional sand placement as identified by the Coastal Protection Engineering. Does it have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right.
Ready for the next item?
Yes, sir.
All right. So at our last meeting, we had the Mans Woodward architect came to present some options before the town council regarding the new police department building that's being proposed to be constructed on US 158, along with a shared use of an EMS facility that would be paid for by Dare County, and then also an additional fire department bay being constructed at the same time that would house a fire truck in an emergency storm event. So after that meeting, the council gave some recommendations and some direction to myself. I've gotten back with the architect. The floor plan that you see before you represents the majority of those changes, and we just wanted to present it to the town council to get final approval to move forward with the construction plans at this point. All the needs assessments have been done from the police department's viewpoints. The EMS is, they're doing their thing as far as what they're good with, and they're going to pay for their share as it is. So we really haven't been too concerned with what the county's been doing outside of what the floor plan looks like. So what you have before you, the shaded area in blue, is the new police department space. As you can see in the middle of the building, you see that being shared a little bit with some green. That's sort of the shared costs that we're looking to share with the county. So the county's going to help utilize some of these rooms as far as the kitchen and possibly the conference room that you see here. So they're going to pick up a little portion of that cost as well, and a little portion of the gym workout equipment that will be there for the police, and they'll also be used by EMS. As you can see as well, I believe Councilmember Hines wanted to show the building with the possibility of a future fire addition. So that's what they've done there on the corner. An additional about 1,943 square feet of offices for a possibly future fire substation if that was required or needed. The green is EMS, and then the half of the Bay Area, or a little less than half of the Bay Area would be utilized by fire for our additional to park in an emergency or storm event, to house a fire engine during those times. So the police department building worked out to about 7,540 square foot building. The fire station bay is about 1,943 square feet. And like I said before, the chief has kind of worked with the architect to develop this floor plan. We don't think there's any wasted space in the building. it also set us up for a little if we have some little bit of growth in the future. So we feel like the floor plan will be good for our police officers and our fire department, especially in our emergency type situations. As an update to the council, something that we've worked on last week was we've applied for a BRIC grant, which is through FEMA. The original process required just a letter of interest, so that's where we're at with the process. We've submitted for about, it's a flood mitigation grant, so we included in that letter of interest that, our current police department is in a flood zone and has flooded like during 3 most recent hurricanes that we've had. So we've applied for about half the cost of the $5 million that we're estimating the project to cost. So we'll, it's a long shot, as I know many other communities are putting in for the grant, but I know there are a lot more additional funds that have been made available through the federal government due to COVID. So it's worth the shot. I'll let the town council know if we get approval to move forward with the process and submit an actual grant application, which would require some council involvement. So we're looking at other options as well to fund this. The money is set aside to complete the design and then put the project out to bid. This would just allow us to move forward with the actual design itself. And when they start to design the building, we don't have to come back and make changes that will cost and drive the costs up. So I'll stand for any questions. I also have a view of the exterior of the building, and I'll show you. This is a very rough draft of the outside of the building. The mayor has made some suggestions, and it is the time, before we get too far involved in what the look of the building is going to be. Sort of is the time to kind of make your just general suggestions. Maybe some ways we can save costs on some of the structural and architectural look of the building. However, to me, the building does look fairly, with the exception of the tower as pointed out by the mayor, which may be unnecessary to have that tower look. Wasted space there, AC, cooling, and all of that. I don't really think it's necessary, but outside of that, and maybe some other things that are on the outside of the building, I feel it's a pretty good-looking, basic building. Nothing that I see that jumps out, but of course I'm not a builder that would drive the costs up. So this is sort of what it's going to look like there on 158. I think it turned out to look really nice. And if you guys would like to make any comments at this time, you have a copy of the floor plan in front of you. And I'll stand for any questions, and Joel's here as well if you have any questions regarding the PD station.
I just have one. You brought it up, that there's actually nothing going to be in that tower? I mean, is that not going to be offices or something? I mean, or is that just wasted space?
If you look at it, there's a door. At one time, I remember seeing a door, and I think there's something they were using for training, ladders or something, they build towers like that. That's just something they threw in there.
Okay.
Yeah, this is something I requested for the grant, so I really haven't had a chance to.
Okay.
It's actually an old thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I remember seeing the door, you see a lot of conceptual fire departments now, they have a metal door. They run up to it, throw a ladder, and they climb up in it, and carry someone down the ladder. It's kind of for training the towers, but I think that's what he was doing, but that's an old, kind of old picture.
Okay.
That's not the architect trying to do with this Coast Guard watchtower concept that, it's been around forever. That needs to go away.
Yeah, no, I don't, yeah. I'm not sure.
And we certainly don't need to be paying for light, air, and
We got the same thing.
space. Okay. Anybody else? Agree. It looks good. Yeah. I mean, it can look good without that. Yep. The one thing I did notice when I looked at the floor plan and I looked at the opening they have where the tower is, some things don't line up there, so I'm not quite sure how that works. I'm assuming the architect will get it right and get us what we need without too much gingerbread.
Absolutely.
We want it functional, we want it practical, we want it to be expandable, and that's what I hope we're getting. So, anybody else got a question? All right, and your instructions to the manager is to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
as quickly as possible.
Yesterday.
All right, you need anything else from us?
No, sir.
All right. All right, that puts us in, any reports from the town manager. Do you have anything?
He's up on me. Let's see here. Let's see. October 25th for the residents, that we our fall chipping service. Do that twice a year. We have flu shots. There'll be a community drive-through clinic here at Kitty Hawk Town Hall. That's provided by the Outer Banks Hospital, Thursday, October 21st, and that's from 2:30 to 5:30. If you'd like to come to that, you must call 449-4529 for an appointment. We do run out of shots fairly quickly, or we have in the past, so call 449-4529 and you can get yourself a drive-through flu shot. We also have the virtual Town Hall Council Candidate Forum, which is Tuesday, October 5th at 6:30. You can visit the town's website or Dare County's League of Women Voters website for more information. For the council and the general public, the next meeting is at 5 p.m., November 1st meeting, due to the elections. And I briefly discussed that we have applied for a BRIC grant through FEMA for $2.5 million. We'll see what happens as we get into that process, and even if we're selected to apply, I'll keep the council informed. And that is all I have this evening.
All right. Mr. Town Attorney,
Nothing for me, Mayor?
nothing tonight. All right, we've kept you later than you're used to.
Oh, that's all right, man. I'm sure the 3 kids are just fine.
There you go. Town Council, Greg, you want to start us?
Just thanks to the staff. It's been a busy summer, but it's winding down. Thank you for everything you do. I am very happy to see we're inching along maybe on the police station, so let's keep moving forward on that. And elections are coming up, so everybody turn out and vote. Thank you.
Lynn?
I'll just echo what Craig said. Be safe out there.
David?
I don't have anything this evening.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a couple. We had a couple of our police officers retire. We had Sergeant Strickland retired after 28 years of law enforcement, and I'd like to thank him for his service for the town of Kitty Hawk, as well as Sergeant Wiggins. He retired from the town after serving 21 years in law enforcement, and I'd like to also thank Sergeant Wiggins. We also have a young man that lives back in Kitty Hawk Landing, David Phillips Meggs III, and he's going to become an Eagle Scout on October the 23rd, and congratulations to him. I don't have anything else.
And that is right here, I believe, at Town Hall.
Yep.
Oh, I thought it was at the church.
It's at the Methodist Church.
Methodist Church. Okay.
Okay, good enough. Well, I don't have anything tonight. I think I've talked enough, but I do have a question for council. Because of the police station, I didn't know if we needed to consult with the attorney on that subject or not. Unless you have some reason, I'm not going to call for a closed session for that. Does anybody see a need for that? All right, so that'll be canceled.
No, sir.
And then that does leave us, it's that time of the year. We get on Andy once a year, and I'm going to go into closed session. I motion to go into closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143, Tac 318.11, Alpha 6, Town Manager Evaluation. Does that have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right, folks, we're in closed session. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.